Hello and welcome to the TechBytes audiocast. My name's Tim and I'm from the TechBytes blogazine, and with me is Dr. Roy Shestowitz from the TechBytes website.
It's Friday night and I'm gonna get sauce. I fought the troll and the troll lost. I fought the troll and the troll lost. He tried to boss me and was outbossed. I fought the troll and the troll lost. I fought the troll and the troll lost. Underneath his Freebird Bridge, hoping goats will cross. Quoting Ashcroft and Tom Ridge.
So welcome to episode 7. It's Sunday the 14th of November 2010, and myself and Roy are back again, hopefully for a shorter news bulletin today, because we covered a lot over the weekend. I hope you've enjoyed the two audio casts that we did on Friday and Saturday. So we've only got a few topics to go through today, but I hope you're still with us. We'll be looking at an article from The Economist, a couple of new releases. I know Roy's got a few links he wants to have a look at, which he's posted to his site, and a general discussion, as you have come to expect with our audio casts. So without further ado, we'll get Roy here and we'll start the show. Hello, Roy, you there?
Yeah. I think the main issue I wanted to talk to you about today was a certain article that's full of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I thought it was at least the third I've seen of this type, very characteristic of a provocative thing that's built to get lots of responses, get lots of hits based on emotion. The way it's constructed, I'll just tell readers who haven't seen it in The Economist. I cannot remember the headline, but you probably will say it in a moment. Basically, the way it's structured, just like the previous two I saw earlier in the week, it's got an image that's supposed to make you very uncomfortable. It can be something like a fatal thing, or it can be a penguin with the word fail on top of it, or it can be the Tux logo with horns and stuff on it. It's supposed to be a devil. And the article is just using very old kind of myths about Linux and strong language and wrong numbers, and it's just constructed in a very classical way that they know will be very easy to debunk. But you probably should go first and explain what the article was about.
Yeah, I got referred this by yourself a few hours back, so this is actually a very, very recent article posted. I think it was originally posted on the 12th of November. And it was, like you say, posted on The Economist. The title of the article is "The Difference Engine: Linux's Achilles Heel." So immediately we're starting off with a headline there that's suggesting some sort of problem with Linux. And you only have to skip down the page about 3 centimeters to see a big picture saying "system error" on it, which again is suggesting to the reader who's maybe just going to glance over this that there's some sort of critical error with Linux. Now, we often have a laugh in IRC when we're chatting about these type of posts, because the one thing that seems to be very familiar about all of them is when a person is about to be derogatory about Linux or to put it down, they'll start off pretending or claiming to love Linux. So for me, this is a typical "I love Linux but" article. Well, they'll say the great points about it and how great it is, and then hit you with something that's a real problem, which means you can't use it. So it's sort of a double-edged article.
There's a very famous British show. It goes along the lines of a person says that he needs to discredit a person he does not like at work, but then the other person tells him, well, you have to first pretend to be the person's friend, and the person says, why? He says, well, you have to get behind someone to stab them in the back. And that's the case with Linux. You have to pretend to be one of the good guys and the Linux users, and you have to ensure you pull the crowd in and pretend to be one of them, and then kind of, throw the bucket or do something kind of nasty. It usually starts, you barely ever see an article starting with something like "Linux has been very, very bad for many years," and I've just tested it, and it's still very bad. It's usually starting with "I like Linux," or "I've used all the operating systems," or "I really, really want to like it, I've really, really tried." And that gives them more credibility, and it's the same debates you have between creationists and evolution people. It's usually trying to start by taking the hearts of the opposite side and then flip things over. It's just a debating technique based, I suppose.
Well, This article, it doesn't make it obvious who exactly has written this, and maybe that's an indicator that the person that has written it doesn't want to put his or her name behind this. One of the other things that stands out very clearly that this isn't going to be a I love Linux type article is the quoting of the stats which we see Microsoft advocates quoting all the time, and that's with the 1% Linux market share, which I hasten to add, I believe it was this year or late last year, Steve Ballmer did a presentation where his own slide was showing that Linux had more than 1% market share. So it seems that even Microsoft advocates can't get the numbers right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was in February 2009. If a person wants to find this presentation, just try to well, I suppose we could give the link later, but
yeah.
If you do a Google search around Ballmer and Linux and Mac market share, you probably will find a picture about it. If you go to Google Images, you probably will see it straight away. It's basically a slide he gave during a talk, but even if you look at prior information that Microsoft had gathered and put as internal documents about the market share of Linux, back in 2003, even they estimated the market share of Linux, I think, to be a lot higher than the Microsoft funded analysts, which usually they quote these numbers from. The 1% usually comes from a company called Notifications, which is paid for also by Microsoft and Apple. So
it's incredible when you said February 2009, because it seems only like yesterday that they've been. But this figure's been quoted for a long time. That just shows it. So that was the first indicator that really this isn't. If somebody's claiming to have knowledge of multiple systems, the fact that they're quoting these type of figures to me suggests it's not onto a winner from the beginning. But we get to my favourite part of the article, and I don't want to pick apart the entire thing because I think that'd be boring for everybody listening. But there is just a point I do want to make. Often when you get opposition to Linux and people that praise and report how well Linux is working for them, you'll get them trying to make a suggestion that being a Linux user is like a religion, and they make it that sort of claim in a very derogatory way, that Linux users may be brainwashed, Linux users maybe follow a cult-like group where they all talk together and they all plan things together. And obviously that's not correct at all. But there's some words that this person uses in his article or her article, and it says, true believers claim that Linux, apart from being free, is faster. And even use of the words true believers, again, it's pointing towards this whole stereotype or whole image that some people like to create, that because you use Linux, you're part of some sort of private cult or club. And it's complete rubbish, absolute rubbish. I'm reading down. I could quote some of his or her comments that they made about kernel panics, and they're trying to claim that a kernel panic is more common for them than a blue screen of death. Well, having seen all the Windows users I have, and been a Windows user myself, both at home and at work, until obviously I went to Linux, I've never seen a kernel panic, I don't think. Maybe once. Blue screen of death, I would have them virtually every session for one reason or another when I was running Windows at home. Of course, Microsoft and Windows is very clever, because when these things happen on Windows, I don't know how it does it, but it's got a very good way of making it feel as if it's the user's fault. So when I had crashes and multiple crashes on my XP system and on Vista, I got the impression that it was something that I'd done and something that I'd installed or I'd tinkered with and I'd messed something up. And I'm not sure how it manages to do this, but it is able to push the fault onto myself. So I never complained about it, because I thought, well, it must be my fault. Nobody else suffers like this. Well, the truth is, people do suffer like this, and everybody thinks the same type of thing. So that was another point I just wanted to make. I mean, the article will be linked in the show notes, and I think it's. I really don't have much more to add. It's full of stereotypes.
Just want to say something about kernel panics. It's the severity really here is not comparable. So if you consider something, well, blue screen of death can often be blamed on hardware or a bad driver, and you see lots of the apologies for Windows trying to blame, well, you must be using a bad driver, or you must have done something you weren't supposed to do. And it's really hard to tell, because if you look at the error message in a blue screen of death, it's usually more of a hexadecimal number. And then it might have some description of some sort, but it's still very cryptic, and most people won't be able to make sense of that. They'll just press enter. But it's also very fatal. Now, in Linux, it's actually improving over time. Now you have what's called the Linux oops, and it kind of locks things. And I have not had a kernel crash for years now. One thing that did happen back in December, I'm talking about a year ago, is the GPU basically kind of messed things up. and I had to reboot my computer because it wouldn't render the picture correctly. And I'm not sure why it happened. It hasn't happened since, really. Well, what happened is with the kernel panics, I actually wonder if the person used the... how often do you see a